Good morning, students. This is Dr. C. Time for another one of my weekly video installments. I thought we'd talk a little bit about expectations for communication. What happens when what we try to do doesn't quite happen the way it happens, right? We have expectations of, but they weren't supposed to react to what I said. Why did they get so mad? These are reactions that I often hear from students because part of what we do, it's not often what we say, but it's how we say it. And we can't always predict what the other person's response is going to be. Remember, it's a two-party sport, sender and receiver. There's no way that we can absolutely, with certainty, predict what the other person's going to say. However, that doesn't mean we don't try at all. I'd love to be able to have the opportunity to do a coaching or mentoring session with you to see if we might practice some of these techniques that we're learning in class. Because what have I said? If we show up differently, others show up differently. I don't recommend not addressing conflict, sweeping under the rug, emotional or personal avoidance, because we just don't want to get into it. We don't want to get into a drama. We don't want to get into hurting somebody's feelings. So oftentimes we withdraw, but here's the only guarantee I can make you. Chances are, if you do nothing, nothing changes, nothing resolves, things oftentimes get worse. So the point is even if it is your boss that you are struggling with, there is a technique from John Maxwell called leading from below. Remember, communication's a two-part sport. Don't assume they can read your mind, but also don't assume that you have to sit and suck it up, buttercup, is what my mentor used to tell me years ago. There's always things that we might consider doing, but remember there's always risk as well. Choice has consequences. We might make the situation better if we invite conversation. Remember, it's been my experience that when I invite permission, it's a two-party sport. I want to invite them to be in conversation with me, in partnership with me, but I need their permission. And I also need to know a little bit about them. Some of my students, very blunt, rip off the Band-Aid, just tell it like it is, Doxy. Others need a little bit more Mary Poppins, a little spoonful of sugar. And so the more you know your audience, the more you can understand how they learn. You can also bring others into the party. For example, if you're at a corporation and there's a conflict in there, you could go to HR and ask for a facilitator. And a facilitator is someone, I don't want to call them the referee, but that's the easiest sports metaphor, is someone else in the room to help you both move for this. The point is not to play tattletale, which I know many of you are very afraid of. It's really to help someone who has more expertise in conflict mitigation, conflict resolution. Sometimes just talking and having someone else there helps us keep a lid on our emotions, help us keep from everybody's tempers gets a little bit, and sometimes we're off to the races and you can't put those words back in a bottle. So let me offer, there's always something, in my opinion, that you can do. And John Maxwell calls it leading from below. Don't think that because you're the subordinate for your manager, your follower for your leader, that you just have to stay there and put up with it. Never settle. Part of what happens in the classes that we're teaching, though, is to teach you more effective ways of going forward. You might not get it right all the time, but you'll probably get it more right with practice. People are wild cards. Emotions can be messy. Emotions can be difficult. Emotions can be unpredictable. But we don't want to be non-emotional automaton robots either. So communication, particularly in conflict resolution, particularly in communication, what do I always say? Use the most effective tool for the most effective outcome. Many people will use email, but that's not always the best route, but it is the easiest. It's the most convenient. You can send out an email blast, but some conversations don't do well in that medium. So let's look at the tools that we understand. Let's look at how they could be used. Maybe you can find a new use or an expanded use for the one of the ones you have. And let's see if we can find a way to move forward. This is where an opportunity exists to have one-on-one coaching and mentoring with me privately, to see if you can have in your group settings or in some of your self-built group settings, practice some of these skills when your job's not on the line. Get a chance, because we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's only when we're out of our comfort zone does learning truly happen. So let me invite you to consider something different next time. I don't expect you to solve world hunger, and we're not asking for a kidney or something major that you're boiling the ocean all by yourself. There is help. And the more we can get better at it, the better off the outcomes can be. But it does take practice. Nobody comes out of the womb being able to walk. Nobody gets to be the world's greatest pitcher or quarterback. without having 10,000 hours of expertise and practice is what Malcolm Gladwell will say that it takes to be able to be adequate and expert. Some of us can excel in some areas and some of us are just adequate in others. It's okay. But we will never get better if we don't at least try. So if you want to run something by somebody before you head into the lion's den, so to speak, take some time to practice. Sometimes being able to admit that we don't have all the answers, asking someone to give us a little grace as we explore, trying to help mitigate so that we can really know that our heart's in the right place. Some of those things are amazing, but remember, you show up differently, they can show up differently. So let's see if we can find some ways that make things easier so that we can get to the good stuff faster. No one really likes conflict, but I don't want you to avoid it and I don't want you to run away for it. I want you to be able to see if we can become better at it because it's really worth the investment. So I'm Dr. C. I'll see you around the quad. Let me know what I can do to help. My office hours are always here, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Chicago Standard Time, so it's Central Time, or by appointment. So I'd love to help you work through some of your things, and maybe I might just know a few more tricks in my arsenal that might make things make a little bit better. The last thing I'll leave you with is this. There's a wonderful song by Kenny Rogers called The Gambler. It says, know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. This is just an expertise of experience in knowing the most effective tool for the most effective outcome. You can do this. Let me see what I can do to help. Good to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.